Shalom from Israel. My name is James McKeever, and on normal days I am a tour guide here in Israel, but these are not normal days. So I'm making this video basically in response to messages, emails and even phone calls that I've received from people all over the world asking how am I, how's my family, and what's going on right now in Israel. And what's going on right now is, first off, both terrible and weird at the same time. For anyone who may have been living under a rock for the last 2 weeks, on the 7th of October, the worst terror attack in Israel's history occurred around the Gaza Strip border. Hundreds, I believe over 1,000 terrorists crossed the border into Israel, going house to house, slaughtering entire families, decapitating babies in their beds, burning bodies, burning people in their houses, abducting everyone from tiny children to pensioners, even Holocaust survivors. Basically, the most unimaginable evil. There's no evil is the only word I can use for it. Was brought to these Israeli villages. And the entire country is reeling from it. Some of these bodies were so badly damaged, we still have hundreds that are not identified. There are people in my own community still waiting to find out if their family members are alive, dead, or in Gaza. This is the reality right now for Israelis. And it's so weird for me to be telling you about all this terrible stuff while standing here in the quiet of Kibbutz and Gev on the shore of the Sea of Galilee right here, listening to the waves lap on the shore like I'm in some kind of a piece of paradise. Whilst I'm listening to those waves, periodically I'm hearing military helicopters, military jets flying overhead. I am doing this video wearing half army uniform, carrying an M16, which I must carry now every time I leave my house because I am part of my community security guard, effectively. And because of these terrorists going into these villages around Gaza, we have to protect ourselves to make sure that something similar does not happen up here in the north. By the way, what happened was about 200 kilometers, a little bit more than 200 kilometers. That's 160 miles roughly for those who speak American, and away from here. And yet, this is something that's affected the entire country and is affecting the entire country. We have 40 miles, an hour north is Lebanon. 10 miles, basically right behind the camera, is Syria. I'm looking at the Golan Heights behind the camera right now. That means that if there already have been incursions over Israel's border from terrorist groups, mostly Hezbollah, which is an Iranian-controlled or Iranian proxy in Lebanon and also operating in Syria. They've crossed our borders. There have been rockets fired into Israel from there. Coming from Syria, we have about 15 seconds warning where I'm standing right now, and maybe a minute from Lebanon. Not only that, we have families along, entire villages and towns along those borders have been evacuated by the army for fear of attacks coming from those countries. Here in Negev, we even have some families from some of those evacuated villages staying here. And this is something, maybe a small silver lining. For those of you who follow the politics and what's going on here in Israel, you may be aware that for the last 5 years, there's been significant political turmoil internally within Israel. And one of the things that has happened in a very dramatic way is how that has been almost reversed. All those people who are protesting against one another's politics in the streets are all united in the defense of our homeland. People are paying for hotel rooms, hostel rooms, and taking guests from these border towns who've had to leave their homes, bring their children to a place that is slightly more safe. And when I say slightly more safe, I mean 15 seconds away from a missile. And yet, with all of this going on, 2 weeks later, things are starting to return to some sort of facade of normal. My children went to school today for the first time since Yom Kippur, in the middle of September. It's not every day, we're not returned to a normal routine, but people are trying to get back to some sort of normal, whilst being very aware we are in the eye of the storm. It's far, far from over. There was this terrible attack that happened on the 7th of October. There are still missiles flying into the villages around Gaza, even Tel Aviv, the population centers in the middle of the country, are still being rocketed. We still have incursions coming from the Lebanese and Syrian borders. And yet we are waiting for the big thing. The big thing is we know the IDF, the Israeli Defense Forces, or our army, are going to be going into Gaza. And when we talk about our army, we often think about big, tough, macho men. Here we have national service guys. Our army is our entire population. These are people's sons. These are people's husbands, their fathers, their brothers. We are having to send our families to defend the country, knowing that not all of them will return. And we know some of them will not be, and we're going to find out who in the coming weeks. This is what's going on in the minds of Israelis right now. We also know that, particularly for people like me in the north, that when we go in to Gaza in the south, there is a high chance that Hezbollah, a sophisticated terror organization with over 100,000 missiles, talking about high, sophisticated guided missiles, could open fire on Israel and flatten towns and villages in their attack. There is a good chance that this is what's coming. We simply don't know right now. So everyone is living in this, like I said, this eye of the storm. It's so peaceful, and yet there is nothing peaceful about it. Like I said, there is nothing normal about the situation. I am a tour guide. I should be guiding you around Israel right now. Instead, I'm standing here wearing military trousers, carrying a gun in order to defend my children, my wife, and my community. It's an absurd situation. With all that being said, I want to say first a huge thank you to all of those people who have messaged me and shown their support for myself and for Israel. People who owe me nothing have shown so much love and kindness and caring. Like I said, I was in the States when all this started, and now the people who came to me said, James, I want to pray for you. How are your family? James, please be safe. James, we're with you and we're with Israel. It's truly heart-touching. I don't have adequate words to thank those people enough for their support, and I really encourage those amazing people to keep speaking up, because in Israel we often feel very isolated, like the rest of the world is against us, and knowing there's people like you who have so much humanity and love and care in general and for us, it makes a huge difference. So first, a massive thank you to all those people. On the flip side, I mentioned how Israel can feel isolated when we see large protests and marches in London, in New York, in favor of Hamas. Not the people of Gaza, Hamas. Rapists, murderers, defilers of bodies, kidnappers, and people are coming out in support of that. I was born in the UK. It's a culture I should understand quite well. And this is beyond me, to be honest. I will be doing future videos, and I'm still considering it, but I'm basically planning on talking about the politics. How did we get here? What is Gaza? How did Gaza come to be controlled by Hamas? What has been their history since that happened? I'm going to be getting into all of that in future videos. But for now, Videos is what I have. I am a tour guide. That's my profession. I was aware before all of this started that at some time there would be a conflict, or even regardless of the conflict, I started taking videos using a 360 camera. Basically means you can pan round and see all angles in the shot. And I offer online tours of Israel. So for those of you who wanted to supplement for Bible studies, or who just want to do a tour in Israel with your families from the comfort of your own home, wherever you are in the world, it's a live tour. I use the footage I've already shot, and we do a screen share, and I guide you through those sites. So for anyone who's interested in that, there's a link to my website just below. You get in touch with me. There's a page explaining a little bit more about the virtual tours, 360 virtual tours, I think it's called on the webpage. The website is www.jamesmckeevertours.com. Again, see the link below and it will take you there. So thank you for listening to my video, and I hope to see you again in the next one very soon.